people in this community are very good friends with the governor. So we're going to use that angle, but that's where it is. So I'll give you a long-winded explanation for a very complex issue.
Is the current plan then to keep the road open below?
Yes, if the current two plans are, if the concrete projects go where we can remodel, we can keep the road open underneath, and if the grant comes, then we're going to keep the road open to automobile traffic. Both of those will keep the automobile traffic open underneath. But the problem is also developed is now there is a large vocal number of citizens who want to shut that road down, that really don't want that road at all. So now what originally was just a bridge has now devolved into an anti-road group on the side, but I'm dealing with one issue at a time. So my big thing is fix the bridge, and if you want to shut the road down in the future, maybe go that way.
So we complete the program. I'm going to cut off there, but thank you again, Supervisor Wasserman, for coming. If we could give him a round of applause. Moving along, State Representative David Solon is in attendance. So David, you got to about 40-45 to present on anything you would like to address or any questions you want to.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tyler.
Yep.
It is an honor to be here. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
One more time, I have to make sure you're alive in this room. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, don't fall asleep yet. We're here to talk about state government and how exciting and all of the setbacks that we've had. But it's been very interesting being engaged. If you don't know, I was on the county board before, so I had a chance to work with some of those same issues that County Board Supervisor Rothman talked about. But I think one of the interesting things at the state that you have a number of issues, especially as it pertains to the state budget. So I had a chance to serve on the local finance committee and then look at some of the financial challenges at the state. Senator Taylor will likely go into her experience on joint finance, the most powerful committee in the state legislature, because that is the committee that decides where the money is spent. I've had a chance to dive in on a number of issues, but I'll just cover a few, but I'm also interested in your questions. When it comes to my tenure at the state, one of the biggest issues that we've highlighted is this bill called Heat and Eat. It's a Heat and Eat bill where a number of states have made the decision to increase the amount of food share benefits for residents so that they would continue to receive the regular amount of food share aid so that they can have access to food. And red states and blue states have moved forward to make the change to keep that threshold. In the 2014 Farm Bill, there was an abrupt cut to about $15 billion in food share in that bill. And we as a state wanted to move forward on that, so I had a chance to work with a number of colleagues in the Assembly to bring forth that legislation. We didn't get anywhere on that, but it was important to recognize the fact that as poverty is continuing to grow, people are still stuck in tough economic situations. We have to make sure that we're looking out for folks that are down and that need access to food. They need access to support. One of the other bills, since I'm also at the state, is the Chapter 220 program, and ensuring that we provide the same seats that we had before in the, if you don't know about the Chapter 220 program, it basically allows the integration of our school districts in a cluster of schools. Take an example, MPS, the surrounding suburb school districts like Shorewood, like Whitefish Bay, and Nicolay, like Brown Deer, and allows those seats to be created. The Republican majority decided to end that program in the 15-17 budget, so no longer did they want to continue that program, and we wanted the chance to bring it back. So
what was that program again? I just missed what you were saying.
Yeah, the Chapter 220 program. So basically, it's seats for, it allows parents and families in, let's say, Milwaukee, and the program exists in Green Bay and in certain parts of the state as well, but Families in Milwaukee get access to suburban school districts. Families in the suburbs also get the chance to transfer as well into the district. So it's like inter-outer transfers of the district. And it's proven that the program has worked. It's been effective at diversifying and making sure that they're providing a quality education for all of those students. But without continuing that program, the state wants to move in the direction of open enrollment, where if you're a family that has the means to transport your students to school every day, that open enrollment works for you. If you don't have those means, you don't have that option. And I usually consider Chapter 220 the first school choice program, because it was a program for public schools to be able to have options in just public schools. Lastly, let's see, I want to talk a little bit about Foxconn, because I think it's sometimes hard for folks to understand. The risk that the state of Wisconsin is in investing all your eggs, $4.5 billion into one company. And
county.
yeah, and local contributions as well. Thank you, Senator. I think the biggest point to understand is that the dollars that we are putting into Foxconn is a deal over the next 25 to 40 years, all contingent upon if the company creates and sustains these jobs over the course of that time. And just on Friday, there was news in Japan that Foxconn decided to commit to closing or laying off 10,000 people in Taiwan by the end of this year. So it brings me much concern if we're really focused on creating jobs, just trickling down dollars by giving them to foreign corporations and expecting them to follow through on their commitments, because history will tell you that it has been a challenge for corporations to follow through with either those agreements on purpose or by accident. So that I think it's some of the things that people have questions about, especially I have family in racing, and they'll say, David, why are you still against Foxconn? And it's not that I'm against Foxconn, it's that I'm for making sure this deal is real. And if it's not real, I don't want us to be in a position 10 years from now, all this money spent, and we have people being laid off. We have a commitment that's not being realized, and we have invested a significant amount of dollars that we're taking away from other things that we can invest into our children, into our services, our healthcare, into our roads, bridges, and so many local services that continue to get cut.
So what criteria are you using to determine if Foxconn is sincere or real?
I think the easiest thing is to kind of just look where the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. Clearly, they intend, from the governor's point of view, to ensure that the company is paid on one half of the original $2.85 billion was to go towards the project of the building, and the other half was supposed to go towards the actual jobs being created. But numbers in the Journal Sentinel just proved that we're talking about $200,000 per job, unlike any other incentive deal that we've done in the past. The deal that Governor Doyle did, what was that company, Senator?
The ships, Marinette?
Marinette. So even comparing it to, they'll say, oh, well, Governor Jim Doyle did incentive deals. Aren't you in support of the fact that they sometimes can work? Yes, they can work, but at the end of the day, we're talking about an incentive deal that is unlike any other that we've seen. And I think that's a red flag for us to really slow down and figure out if we are putting our money where it's supposed to be.
So the $200,000, that's a unique salary per person, is that what you're saying?
That's a unique incentive per person, because we obviously are paying more for each job than what each job will create at a even in their estimates, $50,000 a year
Like a
jobs.
$50,000 job.
Average.
Average,
They're
yeah.
paying 200 for, and the 200 goes to healthcare, goes to, what is?
Goes to the company.
I think that's the state incentive is valued at $200,000 per job. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Is that
Yeah.
what it is?
That is correct. It's not directly 200,000, but when you get done, once they put the shovel in the ground, we began to give them dollars,
Yeah.
literally.
Checks coming from the state of Wisconsin.
Correct.
Budget for the next 25 years, directly to Fox.
And the representative has been kind. It could be someone born now till they're my age and I'm 50, depending what number of jobs, because they keep saying 10,000 or 13,000 jobs, but the agreement was 3,000 and up to.
And up to.
Up to, let's, wordsmith this, up to 13 mean 3,000, and I might maybe sort of kind of maybe might get to 13, but don't hold your breath because I never did it know where I went.
Correct. Thank you, sir.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, so I've been a skeptic about this project since the first discussions of it. What I don't understand is, in the agreement with Foxconn, say that 5 years from now, they sort of pull out, or they do the kind of stuff that well, is there any guarantee that Wisconsin gets that money back?
I would say no, nothing in writing, no clawback. We had Republican legislators saying, well, they don't get the money unless they create the jobs. But that's only for a certain subset of the dollars that are in the deal that are created by this metric of jobs made on a timeline. And if they make that goal, they get the payment that year. If they don't make that goal, they don't get the payment, but a majority of the dollars will already be spent, will already be invested into other things. The road projects that we're talking about, the public infrastructure,
Right.
the utilities, the direct payments to Foxconn end up being much more than just the jobs portion. Any other questions, even beyond Foxconn?
I'm kind of curious, how is job creation measured when unemployment is what it is? Just sort of like what's the definition of a created job? So just take Racine, for example. I think of the type of jobs that Foxconn is going to bring, manufacturing type of jobs. What if all of those folks are just coming from the case plant and just moving right over there? Where they're looking for people then. I feel like with the employment rate where it is, it's sort of a shell game with jobs more than it is actually creation. So just, we're curious how that's measured.
Well, what's interesting is a lot of people had concerns because the state the governor's administration wanted to spend $7 million on an advertising plan in Minnesota and Illinois, attracting young talent to the state of Wisconsin for Foxconn. And I think, one, they clearly missed the vote of the folks that are here that definitely should be prepared to have access to those jobs, since those jobs are going to be real. But I think you do raise a really big point. Right now, there are options in the job market that people have right now. And, a lot of times the governor will tout the amount of jobs that are available through Department of Workforce Development site and things of that nature. But the best measure is the size of people's paychecks. And a majority of jobs being created are low-wage jobs that are not the high-quality jobs with benefits and the economic security that people definitely are used to generations before them. So I think it's important to recognize definitely where the job market is right now. There are options out there. And it depends on the industry. There are industries that are really looking for talent and that are having a lot more retirements because their baby boom populations are retiring at
We can find welders in our life.
Yeah. So it is interesting to look at. Really good question. Question.
Do you see, since you've had the pleasure of, like Sheldon being in the minority in the
The
legislature,
pleasure, that's right.
which has also meant Milwaukee County generally has only minority representation in the legislature, do you see any in the next couple of years, any issues that you think, have any prospect that Milwaukee County cares a lot about that can move forward in the legislature? I mean, you put up bill after bill and.
Yeah,
And
you know, it's
they'll go
interesting, I forgot to mention some of the bills that we're starting to agree on. And me and Senator Taylor are working with Republicans right now on the steps forward after Lincoln Hills and redesigning the system. We're finally getting folks on both sides of the aisle to recognize that. There's been some bipartisan decisions, a little bit on some of the governor's plans on healthcare, a little bit, only because a lot of those are rooted back into the Affordable Care Act. So you're seeing small, I guess, lights of hope that we can be on the same page. But then also, there are still some issues that we are worlds apart when it comes to